Okay, now we'd like to welcome onto the podcast a hardcore outdoor adventurer right here in NorCal. He is also the founder of OooWeee Adventures. OooWeee! It just rolls off the tip of the
Ooh-wee.
tongue. It's a brand new guide service out of Reading. This is Marcus Duvoisin. Marcus, welcome to the podcast, man.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys. It's good to be here.
So,
Virtually.
virtually, yes, it's a weird time these days, isn't it?
Yeah.
So you and I go way back, and I haven't seen you for a while. And little did I know that you turned into this badass outdoor guy. So I'm really curious how you got into it, specifically rock climbing, because I know that's sort of your main passion in the outdoors. So what's your story? How did you get into rock climbing and the outdoors?
Yeah, for sure, man. Well, first of all, do you remember this in our backyard?
I
This is
do.
a half
That's
pipe.
the big half pipe.
This is that me and my dad and John. So Zach played hockey with my brother John
Yep.
for a lot of years. I remember the road trips in the
Yep.
van and just like lots of fast food and
Yeah.
so yeah, we built this half pipe in the backyard, and I guess like first of all, just not climbing, but just being outside and being a little adventurous and risky is definitely all from my dad. Hence the half pipe.
Yeah.
So I have him to thank for that. But climbing specifically, I lived down in the Bay Area in San Francisco for about 9 years, and I tried out an indoor climbing gym called Planet Granite, and I just got the bug really bad. I went there for the first day, and then the second day I was like, okay, I want to go back. And I went like 5 consecutive days, and then it was all over from there. Got really hooked, went to Yosemite, climbed, and then actually after my first year of climbing, there was a 1,500 foot climb that I really wanted to do that I was absolutely not ready for at all. So there's this website called Mountain Project, and you can post and get partners for climbing. REI has since bought the company, but it's a good resource if you're trying to get into climbing. You should look up Mountain Project. It has routes all over the country. It tells you where to go, what the rating is, like a bunch of tips and beta. So shout out to Mountain Project. But I found a partner. He was German. He was traveling in California, and I was like, "Oh, do you want to go to Yosemite and do this big climb?" And he asked, "Hey, what's your experience level? Have you ever led something called trad before, where you're placing gear into the wall?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, I've led trad. I'm like really experienced. I've climbed like like 2 times before that outside. That is."
Outside the,
I
yeah.
was like, definitely not ready. The climb is called Royal Arches, and it is like a pretty friendly grade. It's like an easier climb, but it does take some experience and comfort on the wall. So he took me up, and then he like figured out halfway through that I didn't know what I was doing. So he kind of played this mentor role for me. He was such a cool guy, and by the end of the experience, he had like $1,500 worth of climbing gear, and he was traveling after that point. So he was like, "Okay, I'm gonna leave and come back in a year. I'm gonna let you have all of this gear." And this is the first time that I met him. So he just let me have all this gear, and that really accelerated me into climbing, because otherwise I couldn't afford. I was a college student. I couldn't afford all that gear. So it really like propelled me to climb outside. And I guess like the point I'm making too is also just the importance of outdoor mentors, of like finding someone that
Yeah.
can like mentor you in, whether it's like we were talking about surfing, if you can find a surfer locally that can show you where the waves are and just kind of like bring you under their wing, is such a powerful thing. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's my friend is getting into surfing out in Ocean Beach in San Francisco, and he's terrified of the other surfers because he doesn't know
Yeah.
where to go and what to do. So you're totally correct in that assertion. Rock climbing specifically, tell me how what it is about rock climbing that you love, because quite frankly, it takes a certain person to do it, right? Like you have to be super focused. My brain's all over the place, but you have to have this intense focus on each. Is that what attracts you to it, or is it something else?
Okay, so climbing's for everybody. Like I've guided people of all body types and ages. Climbed to the 65. I took my parents to Yosemite and we did a 500-foot climb, which I could
Wow.
dig into that story later too. It was pretty cool. But yeah, it's for everybody. Everybody can do it. There's all sorts of levels of beginner routes. For me personally, it puts you into this flow state where like everything else is out the window and you're just focused on what's in front of you, and it's almost like you're meditating. And it's just a fun way to work out. I mean, instead of just like picking up weights and throwing them around, you're just working out in a fun, active way. And then it also takes you to really cool places. So uh, after I've been climbing for about 10 years, and on the later end of that timeline, I've been to the Bugaboos in Canada and the Dolomites in Italy, El Potrero Chico in Mexico, Washington, Oregon, Colorado, Iceland. It's brought me to some of the best places, and the community is really cool. It's definitely not exclusive by any means in terms of like, oh, this route is only for people that have been climbing for this many years, and you're too much of a beginner to be here. It's a really like welcoming family, so that's what attracts me. And it's like that dirt bag lifestyle of
Yeah.
just like living off of nothing and like eating scraps of food in the cafeteria in Yosemite. And yeah, something about that. It's kind of like this punk rock, like screw the man kind of community, which I appreciate.
Yeah, I assume it takes, I guess they call it mindfulness, right? When you're in the moment, each little ledge you have to grab on and really concentrate onto it. That my brain goes in a million different directions. So I just it's kind of a different world to me. But you mentioned Yosemite, and I know that's one of the biggest rock climbing destinations on the planet. Um, what are your favorite places to go? Are you doing like those hardcore stuff? I mean, I saw Free Solo with Alex Honnold. Are you doing those hardcore ledges? Are you just doing easy stuff? Maybe a combination of two.
Yeah, for sure. Man, me and Alex Honnold were homies for sure. Uh, Actually, before he climbed that, I like ran. I don't know if you saw. There was a section in the movie where he was like getting advice for me. It was a pretty cool moment.
Yeah. It was a great
Okay,
it
so
was a great movie though. That was just fantastic to see his mindset going into such danger, it was pretty cool.
dude, he's such an interesting character. He's like very robotic and very um, like one dimensional in terms of like climbing is my life and that's what I live for. And he actually also he did a live broadcast this morning about his something called the Honnold Foundation, where he tries to build solar energy efficient homes out in rural areas. But if you want to learn more about it, the Honnold Foundation, it's pretty cool.
He's
That's
just
all I can speak. I don't know much more about
he's just
it.
such an
I just
interesting
wanted to,
cat. Yeah, he is so robotic, but deep down like his passion is so fiery, but you can't really read it on his face. Um
yeah, I definitely relate to him in that way, in that like climbing consumes you, and it kind of like you just get obsessed with it. It's a sport that when you get really hooked on it, you just become super obsessed. So yeah,
so
Yosemite.
no, wait.
I
Let's go back to this.
Okay.
You say that is that the fear of falling that you get so locked into it, or is it your will to get to the top? What is it that sort of drives that intensity?
I think for me personally, it's the summit, and then just the adventure of it. So I would say if you're overly afraid there's a healthy amount of fear, but something's wrong if you're scared for your life. It's actually like when you tell people, "Oh, I go climbing in Yosemite and we're a couple hundred feet off the ground," people are like, "Oh my God, you're gonna die." And it's a safe sport. Like once you find a mentor that's been doing it for a long time and can kind of show you the systems and the gear. I mean, that gear can hold the weight of a car, and it's a really safe sport if you want it. If you want it, obviously, if you climb without a rope, you can make it unsafe if you
Right.
want to, and kind of push your limits as much as you want. But I always feel super safe. I'm never scared for my life when I'm climbing.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, it's not something I ever got into, so I'm very curious about sort of the process. But Yosemite, back to it. Tell me about your experiences there. Like, what have you climbed? You know, really hard stuff, really easy stuff, everything in between.
Yeah, for sure. So Yosemite's cool because it has these granite walls that are really, really tall, right? So you go to other climbing areas and you're doing what's called single pitch. So actually, right in Redding's backyard, there's a place called the Bernie Limestone, which is about a 20-minute drive off of 299. And if you go on Mountain Project and you type in Bernie Limestone, you can find it. It'll give you directions where to park and everything. But that area is limestone, and the walls are, I'm guesstimating, like 80 feet. So they only go up so high, and that's called single pitch climbing. But once you break into multi pitch climbing, then you can keep going. So essentially, the process is you have you and your partner start on the ground. One climber goes up a pitch, which is, it's different lengths, but it could be, let's say, 100 feet. And then you belay your partner up, and then you go another pitch, pitch 2, pitch 3. And so LCAP, just for reference, is 30 pitches. So you have to
Wow.
do that 30 times to go up. So that's the main goal for me, is I'd like to go do LCAP one day. I've done about 600 feet of it so far.
Mm.
I've done the Washington Column, which is a 15-foot climb right across the valley from Half Dome. I've climbed Half Dome, which if you've ever hiked the cables, you walk around the back of the dome and then you like go up these cables. But there's actually a climb, if you, instead of walking around the dome, you go on the other side of the dome, and it's called Snake Dike.
Mm.
And it's really cool because you top out on the climb and you have all of your climbing gear on. And, people from the other side that have done the hiking, like all the tourists, there's like hundreds. It's a really popular thing to do.
Right.
It's the hike up Half Dome. So you're greeted by like cameras are out and they're like taking your picture and like, can we have a picture with you? And that's so cool. And you just feel like this celebrity and you're like, yeah, that's badass.
It's your version of like a professional basketball player in a stadium, right? It's
Yeah.
with people watching and cheering you on. Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool. And they're like, oh, do you need some food and water? And, maybe not right now, but yeah, it's really cool. And then you get to hike down the same route that they do. So you climb up the other side and then you hike down the side that they do. Man, I've done Middle Cathedral, which is another 1,200-foot climb there. I could just rattle off names, but yeah, I made a list of like some cool like places in Yosemite that you might want to check out, even if you're not a climber. That if you're visiting the park for the first time might be cool, but we can dig into that whenever you want.
Yeah. No, absolutely. So what we got into to the actual mechanics of your psyche climbing up the wall, but what's your feeling about climbing? Like, you think about it. Do you think about it a ton? Are you just super enthusiastic? Like, you made that accomplishment. What brings you back for more and more?
Yeah, I would say there's like a couple different experiences. So some are, if I'm climbing something that I've done before, I'm like bringing someone up for the first time that's never done this or never climbed before. That's kind of more of like sharing my passion with somebody else, which gives me a high of like, oh yeah, like they've never been a couple 100 feet off the air and like their mind's blown right now. So I really like that part of it. And I usually only will do that with something that I'm really comfortable on, that, if anything were to happen, I could exit us off the route if I need to. And then there's the other type of climbing where, like, for instance, I went to the Bugaboos last summer, which is up near Banff, Canada.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like, how far can I push my limits physically? So we were doing 4 hours of glacier travel on ice with crampons. That's to the start of a climb. And then we would take off our crampons and then put on our rock shoes. And then we'd start a 1,500-foot wall. And you're just doing big days where you're just, by the end of the day, you're completely exhausted. And something about that, like, accomplishment of like, yeah, we had a big objective and we accomplished it and we did it. And not to say, like, there's been plenty of times where we had a big objective and we had to turn around. But you learn from those experiences. So
You have to be able to turn around, right? I mean, it's only the
yeah,
smart people can know when to say no. So other than Yosemite, we're talking in Northern California. What's your favorite place to climb? Where would you tell people to go, whether they're really into rock climbing and they're just visiting, or maybe a beginner?
yeah, for sure. So there's a gym. The only climbing gym in Redding is the Shasta Rock Club. So I've been coaching a youth team there for about 2 or 3 seasons. The kids are awesome. We did some competitions where we were traveling to Sacramento and San Francisco, and we actually 3 out of the 4 competitions that we went to, the kids from up here placed, and they were going up against kids from Tahoe, Sacramento, San Francisco, and just going up with kids with like the gyms down there are like way bigger and
Yeah.
they just have more access to better training than we do up here. But I would say if you want to give climbing a whirl, then Shasta Rock Club, indoor gym, it's bouldering, which means that you're only going about 10 or 12 feet. There's no ropes. And then I would say if you want to get into outdoor climbing, a good first spot is the Burning Limestone. It's about a 20-minute drive off Highway 299. And then graduating from there, going to Castle Crags, where you guys
Of
definitely know,
course.
all about
Yeah.
Castle Crags. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just big granite domes. There is some single pitch there, but the reason that you go there is to go for like, a summit that's 500, 600 feet, which is cool to top out on that.
So tell me what it's like to climb at Castle Crags. Like, tell me some of the climbs that you guys do.
Yeah, so the most famous one there is something called Cosmic Wall. It's on Mount Hubris. It's about 600 feet. So you have to hike up, the uphill to the top plateau, which you guys have probably done before. You get to that top plateau, and you have Castle Dome to your right, and then if you look to the left, it's this jagged peak. It looks like a triangle, and that's Mount Hubris. And then you have to kind of cut through the bushes for about 15, 20 minutes, and you get to the start of the climb. It's rated a 5.6. So just digging into ratings really quick, if you're walking like down the street, that's like a 0. And then you go a little bit more uphill, 1, 2, and then there's something called third class and fourth class scrambling, which means maybe there's some boulders. Maybe you guys have been to like Hatchet Falls and there's some boulders that you're like scrambling through to get to the waterfall. That's called third class scrambling. And then if the scrambling gets a little bit more intense, that goes up to fourth class. And then once you actually start climbing, then that's fifth class. And from there, there's ratings of 5.0, 5.1, 5.2. And it gets harder and harder as it goes up. The hardest climb in the world right now is a 515 climb. So just for reference, the Cosmic Wall is a 5.6. So it's definitely on the easier scale. I've brought in people on that climb that topped out that's their first time climbing outside ever. And they were able to do it. So physically it's accessible to a bunch of people, but mentally, you have to go up like 100 feet and then like check in with them. Like, how are you feeling? Are you scared? Like get them to sit back on the rope, trust the system. This will catch you. Everything's okay. Play some music, like calm them down a little bit. I have a story. There's this kid named Sage who he came out on that outdoor trip. So I was guiding him, and then there was a gal, which I'm blanking on her name, but we did Cosmic, and I was fully expecting to go up 100, 200 feet, and then to have them go, oh, let's go down now. So I was planning for that, and they just wanted to keep going. And Sage is 15 or 16 years old. And so we made it to the top, and I was really impressed. The kid just didn't have any fear. He was like, no, let's go. He was super psyched. After that, he joined the climbing team. He lives in Weaverville, and we practiced twice a week. He would drive from Weaverville, or his dad would drive him twice a week from Weaverville just to go to practice. So that's how much of the climbing bug that kid got. He was and then he ended up coming to competitions with us, and it was really cool.
That's awesome. And I know, we can talk about OooWeee and your connection to youth, but you're a teacher, right?
I'm a high school teacher, teach enterprise, Hornets represent.
What do you teach at Enterprise?
I teach an engineering elective course. So it's called a CTE class. So a lot of high schools now are trying to offer some career focused classes. So mine specifically is an engineering class.
Awesome. That's really cool. I have noticed on our Instagram feed, a lot of like outdoor people, a lot of like photographers are also teachers. Why do you think that is? Because you have
Yeah.
summers off?
Summer's off, baby. I'm living that right now. I'm living that summer life, and life is good. I mean, it's just a good schedule. You start early, you get off in the afternoon. There's plenty of daylight, and yeah, it just makes for. I don't have to work until 6 p.m., so I can get outside after work, and yeah, it's a good setup.
So becoming a teacher, did that sort of get you into mentoring youth with rock climbing, sort of combining your passion with, catching that bug to mentor the youth?
It definitely added to it. I would say more specifically when I was younger in college, I worked at some summer camps and I was doing some teaching, and that got me hooked on working with youth for sure. It's just getting kids outside and working with kids in general. It just brightens your day. And I worked for a marketing company, and that's actually my major in college. I majored in marketing. I worked for a marketing company for a couple years in San Francisco, and I was just behind the desk all day, and I just like lost my soul staring into the computer screen. And I was like, I need to like switch this up. And I felt really engaged when I working with kids, so I just chased that, and I was like, "What? I gotta go after that."
That's we actually we're lucky because we do stare into the abyss every once in a while. But
Everybody, you can't avoid it now.
yeah,
It's like everyone has to stare into the screen for work in some way or the other.
yeah, but we also have the freedom to say, you know what, let's go shoot a video tomorrow. Let's get out and let's go do stuff. So that's why we, have been doing this, so we can sort of combine our passion with what everyone needs to do and make money.
Yeah, for sure. You got to find that crossover of like, what do you like to do? What can you make money for? How can you make an impact? And yeah, just like, what's that overlap there?
It's hard to find. It really is. It really is. So that brings us to OooWeee and combining your passions all together. So first and foremost, tell me the story behind the name, because it catches you off guard for a second, and then you can't stop saying it. OooWeee, OooWeee. Well, what's the story behind it?
Okay, so I guess when I'm out, like taking people outside, it's just something that I yell down to like bring the psych up. Something that if I'm like really feeling the climb, I'll just give out a big yell like "woo wee," and it's kind of funny because when I tell people the name, they're like, "So how do you spell that?"
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's gonna bite me in the end, but it definitely like it represents the energy that I'm trying to go for. Just like a fun. I try to keep the trips really informal and like easygoing and fun. So that's yeah.
So let's get into OooWeee adventures a little bit. What do you guys do? What are your plans coming up? Why did you start it in the first place?
Yeah, so I just wanted to get people outside. So it kind of the timing of COVID definitely. So people were inside and moods were a little bit down, and yeah, I just wanted to like offer something for the community to get people outside and like break them from their norm and challenge them and fuel their confidence. And I feel like a lot of people look at climbing, or we do mountain biking, backpacking, outdoor yoga, backcountry skiing. We do a night photography hike with Ryan Thompson, who's like
Yeah.
awesome at photography. Last week he led a group out to Castle Craigs, and we started the hike at 6 p.m. The sun was going down, and there was, it was a good group of people, and some of them thought it was just going to be like they didn't know what the Castle Craigs hike was in terms of the elevation that it gains. So it's a pretty uphill hike. We all made it. We didn't get back down to the cars until 1:30 a.m. But everybody was like, when you suffer as a group, you kind of like go crazy together. You know what I mean? it's just kind of like a bonding experience. So I forgot what I was talking to. Like, what was the question again?
Well, just why did you start it? Because it's well, for one, it's donation based,
Donation based.
and it's to that you basically explained to me earlier. You want to make it accessible to people. You want to bring as many people as you can outdoors. So what was your inspiration behind starting it and building this network of guides and taking them out into NorCal on these different trips?
Yeah, like finding all of the people that are really passionate about some sort of outdoor sport, the mentors, right? And then collecting those and kind of providing those to the community. And then just getting people outside, providing a positive experience, uplifting, and then why donation based? Because I already have my main job as a high school teacher, and like I'm not, who cares about money, honestly? It's like I'm not expecting this to be a moneymaker. And I think that people should just be able to pay whatever they can afford. And I also, so I took a group of kids out campfire. It's like a Boy Scout, Girl Scout type of troop. And so this past Friday, we went out climbing. It was 8 kids, and all the gear rentals that I rented from Shasta Rock Club was sponsored by people making donations, which is pretty cool to just provide that experience to those kids that might not be able to get that experience, because it only takes that one time for a kid to experience a sport, and then they just like something clicks with them and they get really hooked, and sometimes they get hooked for life. So like creating those moments is definitely, like, I feel really good about that. And there was this girl, Kaylee, who she just kept running laps. She's 8 or 9 years old, and she just ran a lap and then another one and another one. And by the end of the day, she's like, "Can I do another one?" And her troop leader was like, "Well, we've been here for a long time. It's probably time to go." So I just saw that like bug in her eye for climbing. So I reached out to her mom, and I took some of the donations that I've been getting, and we're actually going to send Kaylee to a week-long summer camp at Shasta Rock Club for climbing, so that she can be with other kids that also like climbing, and it could turn into like something that's a healthy influence in her life now, and that's what she does. It'd be cool.
Yeah, I can speak to that a little bit. You mentioned I played hockey with your brother. I was just naturally energetic and mischievous, and I found something that I loved, but I could also be mischievous at. I could start fights with kids, playing hockey, and do, and just get that out in a constructive way.
You just like taking that hockey stick and just like
That's right,
banging
slasher.
people.
That's right. But it's important to have outlets, because and every kid is different,
Sure.
and every kid's gonna go to something. But I just think, I commend you, because it is really important to have outlets for kids when they're sort of developing into that sort of person. But I also want to learn a little bit about your guides, because I went to we actually wrote an article a few weeks ago about the start of your company, and I went to your about page, and it lists all the guides. And
Yeah.
I realized I already followed all of them on Instagram, because they've been doing like really cool outdoor stuff for years. So are these like your buddies, or did you guys reach out to them? Like, how did you connect with all these guides?
Yeah, for sure. So Ryan, I've been climbing. Do you know Ryan Thompson, and then his dad, Brian Thompson?
So
The Thompsons are just like really good people in general.
I know Travis really well. I've actually never
Yeah.
met Ryan, but I know his photography. I mean, I know it very well.
Yeah. So back when Travis was working at Sports Ltd, I was like, I'm there like pretty much every day. But he's a really cool guy and really helpful, and like what gear to buy. But anyway, I've been climbing with Ryan and Brian for a couple years. We went out to Lassen, and they're just good people. And then I was climbing with Brian, and I was like, oh, I want to do like a photography night hike. Do you think Ryan would be down for that? He's like, yeah, just shoot him a message. So I just texted him, and I was like, do you want to do this? And he was down. So we put it up on the calendar. And I feel like calling them my guides at this point, like he's locked in he's agreed to do another one in August, a Mount Lassen night hike. But I'm basically just like, you tell me, you do some trips, and then if it's worth it for you and you enjoy doing them, then we can keep doing them. So that's kind of how we're playing it right now. And I'm sure like people will flow in and flow out as we go along. But yeah, I hope they keep doing them. And then Garrett, I've been climbing with Garrett for a couple years as well. We've been down to Yosemite and Smith Rock and climbing locally at Castle Craigs and Lassen. He's a really good backcountry skier. Backcountry skiing is not my I don't have a lot of experience in that, but I rented a board and he took me out to Mount Lassen. I think we did Broke-Off, but we were basically skinning up, and then he
Right.
kind of showed me like he's taken an avalanche course, so he kind of talked about like here's all the logistics that goes into backcountry skiing. And then Candace, she led an outdoor yoga trip at Whiskeytown Lake. She works at Balance Yoga, and that was just a connection from one of my good friends. Stephanie has a membership to Balance, and thought she was like, "Oh, Candace would do an awesome job." So that was the connection there. And then Nikhilin, he just led a backpacking trip in the Trinity Alps this past weekend. We went to Big Bear Lake. And that dude's awesome. He's like a backpacking ninja. He knows the trails really well. And then Kyle, we haven't done a mountain biking trip with Kyle yet, but I'm trying to lock him into a date. Kyle, he works at the bike shop at Sports Ltd.
So how was the reception of your guys' first trips? I mean, what were they? I know you sort of started this whole thing during COVID. Did you still get, people to come out, or did it mess up your plans a little bit?
Yeah, I think just like being mindful. So I'm capping the trips at 10 people. And then, things like the carpool, I leave that optional. Like if you want to drive yourself and not carpool with other people, that's totally cool. And then I think you can avoid physical contact in all of these trips if you want. So it's kind of up to people's comfort level. And, luckily it kind of timed out well because I did 8 trips in June, and things were, people were going back outside and things were looking better. We'll see with it. It seems like cases are on the rise now. So it's just one of those things. Same thing with me teaching at Enterprise. Like there's definitely, well, I'll say more than a possibility that part of the kids' week is going to be them learning remotely and then them being in class. So I will just have to make adjustments as we see what goes on with COVID.
Yeah, it's I think it's a really good option for people. We see it with, the activity on our website. I mean, in March, people were only reading the news, and that probably isn't very healthy for your mind. But then once, May hit, everyone's researching where they want to go and where they just want to get out of the house in ways.
People want to get out.
Yeah.
People want to get outside, and they're itching to get outside. And yeah, I mean, it's a good thing. It's a good thing for your mental health. So let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's do it carefully. And yeah, you can definitely be outside and avoid physical contact with other people. It definitely can be done.
Yeah, easily.
Especially up here, like this isn't the Bay Area. There's so many of the places that and it's kind of like a secret up here. Like the Trinities are a secret. I'm so surprised that there's not more people. There was only, when we went this past weekend, a handful of other people that we ran into on the trail. So, the places aren't really crowded relatively from if you've done outdoor things around San Francisco. It's another story.
I'll tell you about the Trinity is that people get upset when we write about them. Like people don't want anyone to come, and rightfully so. My stance tends to be, if it's just because you think it's your secret doesn't mean it's an actual secret. But yeah, man, people want to keep it, remote.
I mean, share the wealth. There's a balance. Like, obviously, it's a good thing that it's so secluded and there's not a ton of people. But it's honestly, Redding's a big hub of Northern California, and it's going to continue to grow. And we have to embrace it. Like, it's a good thing. Like, I think that the outdoor industry in Redding is just ready to boom. I'm so surprised that there's not a ton of other outdoor guiding outfits here, or just like in general, like all sorts of businesses. And I think it just needs to be awakened. And yeah, it's about to happen.
I agree. What's your take on the crowds at Yosemite?
Oh, so right now it's my mom's 60th birthday, and we're going as a family to Yosemite for a week. We were luckily enough to go on the registration on the website, and they have the 7-day car pass, which I've been going there for about 10 years. I've probably been there at least over 100 times. Like I'll try to go a couple times a month when the climbing season is really good. Um, but anyway, it's just kind of a special time down there because you're always fighting the crowds. Sometimes in that main loop of Yosemite, it'll take like an hour to get around that loop, but they're restricting car access in half.
Yeah.
So there's half as many people as there normally is, which if you can get on their site and get a car pass and you've never been to Yosemite, now is the perfect time to get down there because you'll never be able to experience that again. It's just going to get more and more crowded there. So get down
We
there.
say that every week in this podcast.
We've really been saying that every week because all the news that's coming out of there, everything is it's unlike you've seen in a decade,
For sure. I'm like jazzed about getting down there. I can't wait.
Yeah, it's usually like 5 million people a year that go there, and now it's at least at the very, very least in half of that. So yeah, we've heard great stories. So what trips do you have coming up with OooWeee?
Okay, let's see. So August 8th, there's a Mount Lassen photography night hike with Ryan. August 9th, we're going to hike up Chemise Peak and then do a yoga session. There's a big plateau at the top, and Candace is going to lead a yoga session. August 15th and 16th, there's a backpacking trip in the Trinities, Canyon Creek. It's probably the most popular trail out there, but it's for a good reason. It's like you guys have probably done it. It's such an awesome backpacking trip. And then I'm talking to Vinny, who is friends with Ryan Spitz, which you guys have probably heard about Ryan Spitz.
We know him well,
I've been learning about this guy. He's sounds like an animal. He's like,
Ryan? Yeah,
He is an animal.
Yeah,
we know Ryan
dude,
well.
that guy, I've just been seeing some posts of like things that he's done. I'm like, damn, I got to take this guy out climbing. And
Yeah,
see what he's made
I
of.
like to call him a masochist, and I think he agrees with that. But
His beard
yeah,
is epic.
his
too.
beard's great. Yeah, he's a great guy.
Yeah, so that bike packing crew. So Vinny is a part of that, and we're talking about in September bike trip from Mount Lassen to Mount Shasta. So it'd be an overnight. It's called bike packing, which I've never done before. So Vinny's going to be the lead on that. I'm definitely going to join for the trip and have a blast. But yeah, essentially you're just like biking for, I think we're going to do like 40 miles, 50 miles, camp out, wake up the next day, and then do another 40, 50 miles.
Did you see their film that they made, the Odyssey 700?
No.
They have
What's
a
that?
full, it's like a 45-minute film on their bike packing adventure from the Oregon border to the beach near the Bay Area. It was 700 miles.
How long did it take for them to do that?
I don't know. It was like 10 days. And of course they had all sorts of issues, both with the trail and with their equipment and everything. But yeah, they documented the whole thing. It was great. Look it up. It's on YouTube, Odyssey 700.
Odyssey 700. Yeah, that must have been in some of those like outdoor film festivals, right?
I think he's submitting it. Yeah, they just finished it. We interviewed Ryan. I think it was a while ago, and he was telling us about it. I'm like, what are you doing?
Well, because he was going like bike rafting,
and he's also doing raft packing. He's a crazy guy, man.
He
But
just does it all.
yeah, no, look at that. That video shows you kind of what backpacking is like. It's really cool.
Okay. Yeah, I'll check it out. It sounds cool.
Yeah, man. Well, we're stoked for you. So like you have your whole schedule and everything on the website, right? What's your website again?
So it's OooWeeAdventures.com. So it's three O's, WEE Adventures.com.
OooWeee. And And so you
it.
have the whole schedule, and people can book their spots on the trip there, right?
People can book them. You don't need to pay anything to sign up. You just throw your name in, and then from that, there's an email list of the trip, and then I send out like a mass email for anyone signed up of here's where to meet, here's what to bring, here's what to expect. And then, yeah, when you join the trip, just if you want to make a donation, you can. If you're like strapped for cash and you want to make a donation like later on another trip, it's totally like anyone join, and yeah, come on board. Don't think like, oh, I have to make a donation. I want to make it accessible to everybody. So.
And they can also donate to sponsor some youth trips too, right?
Yeah, and I've had people that aren't even joining a trip, and they just get on the website and then they just throw cash on gear rentals for kids. So that campfire troop I took out climbing on Friday, we just scheduled a kayaking trip for August 26 or August 29 weekend, whatever falls on that weekend. So I'm going to take them out to the lake and go kayaking. It was 100 degrees when we went out climbing. I tried to keep them in the shade all day, and like we had cold drinks for them, but I was like, okay, guys, like this is a lot of fun. You guys are troopers, but the next outdoor trip with you, I'm taking you to some water, and we're going to do something a little bit lower in temperature. But so I'm just figuring this out as I go. The whole thing I'm figuring out as I go. If there's anybody out there like the what is it, the Adventure Hub that has all those kayaks, I do have some budget set aside for people that have made donations to get the kayaks for the kids, but we need like 8 kayaks. So just shout out if anybody has kayaks out there, go on the website. My cell phone number is there, and like let's work something out. Let's get these kids outside.
Well, in my experience, how you're doing things, you're gonna really get, a group of people that get passionate about it, because you're doing it for the right reasons. Everyone does everything for money or whatever, but you're just doing it to help people out, to get people inspired. And I'm telling you, it might take a little bit of time, but it's going to catch on, because I think a lot of people think the way that you do. They just don't have it in them to move forward with a project like that,
I totally agree. Like people are all about it. I had Christy who joined the backpacking trip this weekend, and she said, oh, I have like 5 tents in my garage, and this one's just an extra one. I'm going to donate this. So also shout out if anybody knows of a kid or a family that's like, oh, we don't really camp, but we'd love to do it. We can't afford a tent. I have a tent. So just call my cell phone, text me, and I'll come over to your house. I'll teach you how to set it up and like get you out camping, get outside.
You're like the outdoor Northern California Mother Teresa.
Very commendable.
I don't know, man.
I love it, man.
I have, you know what? I'm a teacher with my summer off, and I'm trying to get people outside for sure.
That's awesome, man. Well, any trips you have coming up, just send it over to us. We're gonna push it out to our audience, because we want to help you out. I love what you're doing. And it's good to see you, man. Long time no see. Good to see your face.
Yeah, for sure.
Hi, you look.
I'll have to make it down to the studio sometime.
Yes, we're gonna have you in studio. I guess before summer ends, because then you start getting busy again. But yeah, man, we appreciate you coming on. Like I said, we appreciate you. Everything you're doing. Everyone, go follow OooWeee Adventures. You're on Facebook and Instagram and all that good stuff, right?
We're there. Facebook, Instagram. Smash that like button.
Smash that subscribe. All right, Marcus, awesome having you on, man. We'll talk to you soon.
Okay, see you guys.